think some of the best innovation that we've had is great technology that is automating all the things that you can so that it elevates the people and frees up the people to do the things that they can do best.
Hello to all of our listeners. Welcome to our very first episode of the Mortgage Innovators podcast, where we are delivering the freshest and hopefully entertaining insights on all things mortgage and the innovation propelling our industry forward. My name is Dave Zitting of Avenue Technologies, and I'm joined here by some wonderful and dynamic co-hosts who all share their own unique connection to the industry. Sue with Total Expert.
Hey everybody, glad to be here.
Margaret, Caliber Home Loans.
Great to be here, Dave.
Great to have you. Michael, American Pacific Mortgage.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And Dan, Finance of America.
Great to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. I'm really excited to be participating in this fantastic podcast, especially with such a distinguished group of our industry-leading thinkers and technologists. Sue, Margaret, Michael, and Dan. Thrilled for the opportunity to talk some tech shop with you, get to know you guys more, and have all of you share with our industry through this fantastic forum more about how technology is evolving in our industry. And really quickly, let me just jump in. We've got a really important sponsor here. Qualia is the category creating digital closing platform used by thousands of lenders across the country to seamlessly work with their title and escrow partners. By working better together, Qualia is empowering lenders to deliver a differentiated closing experience for their clients through real-time communications, closing status updates, and workflow management. Qualia brings lenders together with home buyers and sellers, title escrow agents, and real estate agents alike for a secure and seamless closing experience. Qualia is also proud to have been awarded the Housing Wire Tech 100 Award for real estate, as well as the CB Insights FinTech 250 Award. Discover how you can work more efficiently with your title and escrow partners at qualia.com/innovators. That's QUALIA.com/innovators. So guys, great to see your faces. And today we're exploring the relationship between innovation and technology. We know that innovation is the breeding ground for technology, and specifically within the housing industry. As we look closer at the overall housing industry, we know that it's made up of a number of really complex and super essential other industries. I can't say sub-industries because they're all so complex and so important. We have real estate sales, we have housing finance, mortgage, we've got insurance of every sort, from title to P&C and warranty, and on and on and on. We have home services, we have home products, etc., etc. I think due to the complex nature of the individual industries that participate in this really complex consumer transaction, we see housing innovation can be a bit siloed, which in turn tends to specialize technology to these specific segments of the industry. However, Sue, your firm is actually a really great example of how innovation spans multiple industries. But as we continue to get a read on the evolution of today's housing consumer and specifically their expectations, do we get a sense of what will be motivating innovation in the near future, just down the road, and what's happening today really too? And will it be more broadly distributed across the housing industry, or simply do we see more of a doubling down and more innovation and focused technologies that bring new capabilities, still focused though within these segmented specific areas of the industry? What do you guys think about that?
Hey, Dave, I think we're actually going to see both. I think there's going to be aspects of the industry that are going to still maintain that silo approach. And I think we're also going to see innovation, as you said, kind of what Sue's company is doing, where they're going to integrate. That, as an industry, we've been talking about that for 30 years, how to pull everything together. And I think the important thing is that innovation belongs to all of us. It's not just the CEO that's responsible for it. It's not just the chief, technology officer. And I think as we realize that innovation is actually part of a culture, and as we embrace that, I think we're going to be blown away at what some of our colleagues are going to be able to invent and think of.
Margaret, I'll piggyback on top of that, and thanks to the both of you for the kind words about Total Expert, because that's a huge part of what we're trying to do is develop something that allows, data and information and then the actions to actually be integrated, into one system so that, that you're able to actually, really get the results that you're looking for both your customers, for your employees, for your bottom line. And I think that's been the big puzzle in the industry. You hit it on the head, Margaret, where everybody has got their own tech stack, but the pieces aren't always talking to each other. And the dream has been that you'd be able to take all your unique Lego bricks, but you'd be able to put them together and have, and actually have the data and the information and again, the activities flow so that you get the right results. And I think we're starting to do better at it as an industry. When I look back, 5 years ago, even 8-10 years ago when we first started to get this digital revolution in the mortgage industry specifically. And I think the cool thing that you're seeing happening is I do think that we're starting to see actual innovation. I think for a while there was kind of some iteration. We were like, well, maybe we can add another field to have more compliance oversight. Well, that's not innovation, actually. That's iteration, but innovation is when we're actually saying, what are the hard problems we're trying to solve, not just in the here and now, but looking where the puck is going and saying, how do we start looking forward? And a huge part of that is having to stay plugged into the ecosystem and say, not just what am I doing or what do I think or what do I need, but it's like what's gone out there with all, the other lenders, with the economy, with the industry and the other partners, so that we're really doing something where we can create a great experience overall.
And I think you hit it on the head too, is it's on top of just the systems talking to one another, who are they talking to? And I think that's where a big focus has been over the last couple of years, is not only, are the systems talking to one another and then giving outputs to, maybe for us at American Pacific Mortgage as the lender, but then what are the agents getting? What are the borrowers getting? How are they getting put in touch with those services that, that were mentioned at the beginning, the insurance quotes, their MI quotes, those types of things. So I think, from my perspective, it's also too, how those systems can talk to the various parties in the process through that centralized kind of communication channel. So the right people are getting the right messages, at the right time.
Yeah, I think, overall, we all know this, customers' expectations are changing, right? And a lot of innovation just comes from creating customer feedback loops and learning what customers want, when they want it, how they want to be communicated to. Do they want a text message? Do they want an email? What are the channels? You want to meet the customer where they're most comfortable communicating through that transaction. But it's also, we're also all trying to figure out how to create this customer for life experience. And it goes well beyond just that single transaction, right? It's trying to figure out what the next opportunity you're going to have with that customer and really create an end-to-end experience. I mean, we can look at closings. I mean, now with some of the e-closing capabilities, the lenders really start to own that experience and get to control that, where, we used to rely on the title companies and, you had to walk into an office. Well, that is going to be starting to rapidly change. I think it's really up to us and the lenders to really help drive those innovations. There's always going to be outside sources, but I really think such a big component sits with the origination channels and making sure that we set the expectations for the customer and we really try to give them as much of an end-to-end experience as possible, not through just that transaction, but really setting up the next transaction.
Yeah, Dan, I like that a lot. And we know that innovation, it starts with need, right? there's some needs, some consistent needs, somebody's missing it, somebody figures out how to fill the need and they fill it. And if they can fill it technologically in a wonderful automated way, you're really onto something special. So that's really cool. And so as we look at need and we look at this rapidly evolving consumer that is experiencing buying stuff in a, in a really centralized and what we call a single point event activity here at Avenue Technologies, they can go somewhere and they can look at it, shop it, see different versions of it. They can hit a button, a whole bunch of gears work in the background to make things happen well for them. And industries have found that, look, there was a need of making things more simple for the consumer, and the result was better. And if I can do that, I'll get more people coming my way. And so we can see innovation just exploding in our industry. It's just so exciting to see it, both globally and of course in the different major segments of our industry. And I agree that as these new aspects of the technology, like e-closings and those things, it is going to start shifting where the opportunity is. And you mentioned, for decades, title companies had this part of it. Well, now that could be changing. So, what are they thinking? What's going on there? What are lenders thinking? What is the opportunity there? Again, seeing a need, filling a need, looking at that innovation, and new innovations are going to breed other innovations. The thing I love about the closing example that you shared, and this is something as a longtime mortgage banker and an old originator myself, is that the closing is a celebration. That should be such a celebration that they forgot all about all of the little hard parts about it, right? That's such an opportunity to really start the path of the customer for life, a relationship. And I think it's incredible to see how quickly that is changing, how fast technology is rushing into the industry. And so as I step back and we're all, getting up every day doing our thing, we see this change and we see this consumer changing so fast. It makes you scratch your head. What is happening here strategically that is promoting and really driving new innovation more globally? That's really cool. I like that a lot. Awesome.
I love that you said celebration, because that's so right. And even just having that distinction, imagine as we think about all the other intersections that potentially are celebrations, and how that's going to shape and create an intersection for innovation. We think about, okay, so I love what you said, innovation starts with need. I also think about it also starts with creating a vision that the consumer potentially is super excited about. You look at the Apple phone. Everybody wanted the phone, even though they didn't realize, originally that they needed a phone that also had music, that also had, a camera, all of that. And now that is the market standard. And so, anyway, I think it's cool to think about like what you said, Dan. What's the customer feedback? What are they telling us that they want to experience better or not experience? And then also, what kind of a wonderful celebration, lovely experience can we create for them?
Yep.
Actually, I have a question I'd love to ask you guys on that note, because I do love also that you brought up the e-closing thing, because you think about, this group of people has been in the industry for a very long time. This has been talked about like forever and ever and ever, but suddenly we were able to do it during like 2020 because we had it, right? So we suddenly had this like forced innovation. And it reminds me of, like the 4-minute mile, which was like nobody could do it until Roger Bannister did it in whatever year it was.
And everybody broke it.
Everybody can do it, right? And so it's like, we can't possibly get all of our people working remote until suddenly you could. We can't get e-closings until suddenly you could. So this forced innovation that happened last year, I would love to hear actually from each of you of kind of, has that spirit stuck with you of now that, there is, depending on where you're at, some level of normalcy that's coming back? Do you have things that you're saying, hey, we saw we could do that, we bashed through that 4-minute mile, now we're going to go do this? I mean, I'd love to hear, I mean, Michael, I'll kick it to you. You guys are always doing cool things. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of once that genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in, or hopefully you won't put it back in. And I think, I think it was kind of a perfect storm because, obviously, kind of being forced into it because of the what was going on. But also I think because then we were really moving into really over the last 2 years where the average age of that home buyer is that millennial. You're getting the people that now they're living in technology. These are the people that are starting to take over at tech companies that are buying homes. And so that expectation of what they're dealing with in their everyday life, they're ordering their food on an app. They're ordering their rides on an app. They're ordering their hotels on an app. So why would I not go through an app to get my home loan? It doesn't make sense to them why it's not happening that way because everything else in their lives is. So I think it just started to set this expectation of like, this is what we do for everything. We want this to be the same type of process. And then that really challenged, the lenders around the country to really deliver that. And so I think that's, I definitely think it's here to stay, and that we're just going to see more and more adoption, along the technology line as we move forward.
I agree. And Sue, I love that line of thinking. I'm a big believer in belief. It really drives our lives. Whatever we believe is going to kind of set our emotions. It's then going to set our thinking, and we're going to move forward. And the 4-minute mile example or analogy is absolutely perfect in that all of a sudden it just changed the belief of everything. And we look at that with in so many different ways within our industry. What COVID did, it changed the belief systems of so many innovators and thinkers and managers and doers and in the trenches people and for survival in some cases, we utilize Google or Zoom, and Google Docs became this huge shared thing all of a sudden because of all the virtual work, and everybody became a pro at that. And of course, e-closings, it's just incredible to see that. I've been a huge proponent of that for so many years. And the beautiful company that I built, PRMI, with an amazing group of people, that was something it felt like we were just a fish swimming up the biggest stream in the world. And we see that for this real specific need, those things were advanced, and now beliefs are changing. People can look at behaviors. Innovators can look at behaviors. Innovators can look at businesses. And if somebody else is doing it, is a super competitive industry, their belief systems change, and they're like, by hell, we're going to get that done, and we're going to move forward. The other thing I wanted to add to that, Sue, to your point, and I love it, is, and I don't remember the exact stat, but it was something I saw on CNBC. I was just working along, and during COVID, there was this big, huge advance in investment in innovation and technology in the world, in like every technology and every, like it was some crazy thing, and I hope I don't get this wrong, but it literally blew my mind when I heard it. It was something like there was more invested in innovation and technology during 2020 than like the last 10 years. It was some major.
I heard that same thing, Dave.
Yeah.
You hit it right. Yep.
Okay, good. Good. I was blown away, and I just thought, wow, everything's going to change. Everything's going to change because you get the world thinking in that direction and spending that kind of money on innovation, and we starting to fill these needs. Our industry needs to keep up. We need to that, and that's kind of what I really loved about your initial question, Margaret, about innovation. Where is it coming from? What is the genesis of it, and how are we thinking about that in the housing industry? Because guys, let's face it, we still have quite a bit of siloed activity going on, right? And I think that we need to kind of catch up on that a little bit.
Well, I think the other thing too with the adoption of innovation or technology over 2020 with COVID too, is what we always heard before, at least what I would see in the graphs and the charts that I would look at, was it would always be age ranges. right? It's like your adopters of this technology is this age group. It's your millennials. It's your this. Not last year. It was everybody because that was your only option. So I think that's another key thing is that it's not very often that everybody's all coming along at the same time. And I think that that's what last year did give us when it came to that was, you didn't matter, age, ethnic background, any of that stuff. It's like everybody, it's that forced adoption that we're talking about because it was your only option. So I think that that's where, people are really able to strike while the iron's hot right now because everybody's looking at it.
And I think ultimately it's going to separate the successful companies and the non-successful companies. It's just like what you're talking about, Dave. It starts with a belief. Can I accomplish something? And then ultimately it's going to be your competitive advantage. And I think the marketplace is going to self-select companies that have the celebration, that it's a really great experience, that it's easy, that it is consistent with how they like to live life, doing something on the app. Or some people want more of that, human interaction.
Yep.
And I think you said it, Dan, it's knowing that, who wants to actually get a phone call and who wants to, don't call me, just, send me a text.
Yeah. I think our industry overall is still playing catch up, I think, to other verticals. You got the Ubers. I mean, the taxis. Look at the taxi service, how that's transitioned over the last 10 years. I mean, it's crazy, right? But I think 2020 was kind of a kickstart for mortgage to start catching up to other industry verticals. And I think there is now so much different shiny widgets on the marketplace in our industry. It is challenging to stay in tune with it all and really figure out which solutions are the right ones to partner with, invest in, because as we know, partnering and investing in any technologies is a big decision and big investment, and you want to make sure that you have a long-term partnership, and that's become, I think, more and more of a challenge. I'm just interested to hear what you guys kind of have seen, but I mean, I've been now doing this for almost 20 years, and I've seen more technology in probably the last 3 than ever before. And I feel like 2020 was just like an ensemble of new, widgets coming to market, and it's really difficult and challenging to keep up with it all.
People didn't have anything else to do, so they were at home, like, coding and creating like new shiny widgets, but
it was all those Zoom happy hours. I think, just got everybody innovating.
Exactly. Everybody do a Zoom happy hour and then go to their basement and create technology. But it's out of crisis is what innovation is born from, right? When you're in this situation, and so much of the innovation that's come up, I think, has been to do exactly that, to kind of say, okay, well, who knows how long this is going to last, and what are we going to do? So how do we continue to to connect? But I think, to your point, it's thinking about, now, is this just another shiny object? And it's thinking about what are the things you really need to think through and analyze before you do make that technology decision. And I could say, I'd love to hear, all your thoughts on that. I mean, one of the things, being a technology provider, that, we like to talk about a lot is, it's not just, you don't partner with someone for where they are right now. It's where are they going? You're hooking your wagon up to, a set of horses, and, where are those horses going? It's not just what's, happening right now. It's where is this company going, and what's the vision, is how we look at it. And, but I'd love to hear what, kind of how each of you, really, how do you look at technology and make your choices when you're trying to find those perfect partners, like you mentioned, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kick it off. I think you hit it on the head. It's not necessarily just where you are today, but it's where you're going. And we look, at Finance America, we really look at building really close partnerships. Total Expert's one of them, and people that are willing to listen to us, possibly even adjust their roadmap and innovate alongside of us, and be really an integrated partner, both in technology and just as part of our extension of our team. And those aren't partners that you can always find, and integration is key for us. So the last thing we want to do is introduce, especially when you talk about, Michael was talking about adoption And yeah, we had a lot of forced adoption, but one of the things that we probably all try to stay away from is those shiny objects that just sit on the bookshelf in their own little island, versus really making sure they're fully integrated into the current process flow that whether sales or ops are working in today, so that you can try to create a solution that's as least disruptive to their current workflow as possible. And whenever you can automate as much on the back end, especially for sales, we know we'll get better adoption there. So long-term partnerships is really just and also leveraging industry peers. I mean, there's not a time that we make a big technology solution that I won't ping 3 or 4 people that I've become friends with in the industry.
Yep. Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head there. I mean, it's the long-term partnership aspect, and then for me selfishly, now it's like I want my friends to be friends. So like, how do you line up with these other vendor partners of mine to make it easier for me to integrate in? Do you already integrate? We're also fortunate enough to be partnered with Total Expert. So like, are you already partnered with Total? I have a list of like kind of our core partnerships where it's like, okay, where do you fit in with these people? Because I'm going to be more willing, of the 15 a week invites I get for demos, I'm going to be more apt to probably take that meeting and talk to you if I know that you're already working with people that, we have a great partnership with, we have a ton of respect with, and if you're already integrated with them, we know you've been vetted. We know that, we know where their vision is. So, they're kind of our trusted advisors to guide us into those conversations. So I couldn't agree with Dan more.
No, I agree, guys. And so have ran at one of the nation's largest mortgage banks and a buyer of technology, right? A user of all the different technologies. And then to be a part of a technology firm. When you're part of a technology firm, it's like you're not allowed to use other people's technologies. You're supposed to use your own. So it's a fun approach. And I think back on running a major mortgage banking operation, and you had so many different pieces of technology, and Sue, what you said is so relevant. There's now this flood of all these new shiny objects, and I think of a few things really quickly. I think of technology debt, right? The more shiny objects you take in, the more management of those things all actually working and talking to each other, while at the same time everybody's so busy trying to get loans out the back door, that just kind of builds on itself and builds on itself and builds on itself. And then I also think about how entrepreneurial this industry is. It's an industry of doers. It's an industry of people that wake up every day and just go, I can do that. I can make that happen. And if somebody walks in the door and kind of shows a little bit of a pathway of where that might be, and I got caught up in this all the time. And I had a lot of great people that would pull me off the fence or explain to me why that wasn't as shiny object as it should have been. But what we tend to get caught up in the personality of our industry, I think, is and being a part of it is confirmation biases, right? Like, somebody said this was really great, and then all of a sudden you kind of check with something else, and one little thing confirms it, and then now a bias is created, and then you get too far down that rabbit hole, you're screwed. You can't get out of it, and then you end up completely off path of what you were trying to do in the first place. And so I do think that it's super interesting where there is so much money being invested in innovation and technology, and there's literally thousands of new little gadgets and widgets and things, and I wonder, there's going to be some of that winning out that really doesn't fit, and it might actually slow down the productivity or the throughput or the net of what the industry is trying to achieve, which is, can we all work together, talk together, get these major siloed segments of our industry working more in a singular flow, so that the consumer can come in and just have this more of a singular experience, right?
I was just going to say, what you triggered for me, Dave, is I think it's also really important that we have a lot of rigor around what we're trying to actually accomplish. So enterprise by enterprise, because I think that's exactly right. You know, the old saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right?
That's right.
And the idea is that when the mission and vision is so rigorous, then you can really make an assessment, what are market standards, and then what is the action plan or the strategy to use innovation and technology to make the vision and the mission happen.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
And I think that's where you're seeing things go now, with more open APIs, more of these, platforms willing to talk to each other and, pass the data back and forth, as we're getting into that environment. And, I think, something important that you touched on, as you were going through that is, around, the shiny objects, but also, I think of like tools versus full platforms. There's really great tools out there that can plug into an existing platform. So I'm going to get the benefit of what they're offering, but I don't necessarily need to create extra logins. I don't necessarily need to create extra steps for our originators to take, where then it becomes almost a hindrance for them using something. And so that's one thing that, we've really been focused on, is ways that we can, leverage some of these great things that are out there, but I might not get the adoption that I want if I've got to have them sign into something on their own.
Right.
And so that's where, us having the benefit of, partners, like a Total Expert, where they're actually, leveraging their platform for other people to plug in, so that, our end users are getting that value add without creating extra steps, which for us, is really important when, the thing that's scarce is time.
Dave, you and I used to talk about, because it's interesting talking about like this adoption, because a lot of people will be like, oh, we have to have adoption. Well, part of adoption is putting the right things in place, turning it on and letting the magic happen, and being able to lead, from that level. And Dave, I know, you and I used to talk about this kind of back in the day. I would get so frustrated when people would say like, oh, loan officers are lazy. And it's like, no, they're not. I was a loan officer for many years. You originated.
Worked really hard.
And it's like, no, it's like, they're some of the least lazy people that I know. It's just they're motivated by different things, and they're not motivated by, hey, sit down in front of your keyboard and sit through, like try to figure out what your password is, go in and learn this intricate thing. It's like, they're just like, oh, just make the magic happen, like just bring me the things, because you want them doing what they do best. And great technology. I think some of the best innovation that we've had is great technology that is automating all the things that you can, so that it elevates the people and frees up the people to do the things that they can do best, right? There's certain things, I don't know, I believe, maybe you would disagree with this. I believe that there are certain things that technology will never do. And I'm saying this from being a technology provider. There are certain things that, and even they say, the millennials, more so than any other demographic, yes, they want to do things online. They want it to be easy. They want it to be through the channel. They want it to be, but man, when they reach out their hand and they want a human being, if they want Dan, they want Dan. They want, they want a real human being to grab their hand and help them. This is a massive thing that lots of them have never done before, right? And so, and I think people, just in our DNA, people are attracted to people, right? You want all the stuff to be easy, but I think I want all the stuff to be easy so that there's more opportunity to be able to connect with people. And so I don't think that the best innovation, in my opinion, is automating all the repetitive stuff, or ferreting out the opportunities so I don't have to go digging for them, or making it easy to make the magic happen without me having to always put my hands on the keyboard to make it happen, but still keeping that human being at the center of this really important experience that we're creating for people. Margaret said it, again, it's a, especially when it's a purchase, it's a celebration, it's a life event, it's a huge deal, right? And so and I'm sorry, technology can't celebrate with you. It can't give you the high five that like a person can.
You're absolutely right. You really touched on something I made a note here even to try to fit in today, and I know we're getting down to the end of our time, but one of the things that in this industry, we have to do, technology has to be incredibly dynamic to meet exactly what you're talking about, Sue, in that it needs to, what we measure it in what we call the emotional sort of spectrum, right? 0 to 100, 0 being an incredibly confident buyer. They've got a big down payment, you know, everything's secure on the economic, basically all 4 C's are in check. And that consumer, we hear this, you know, I'd rather not talk to anyone. I want to see a competitive structure. And if I can just sign digitally, I would be thrilled. Okay. I don't need my handheld, all the way up to the most emotional. Maybe it's a first time home buyer, you know, whatever, but they're super emotional. Something might be unique about one of their 4 C's of their finance. And then that amplifies the emotional aspect of it. And so you've got technology that needs to provide an experience to one person that is very much on their time, turf, and terms, and then but the technology can still weave into the very human aspect of our industry, which is really most home buyers, and you got to be able to kind of weave that. You have to be able to weave that human interaction into it, and how that works successfully. So it's a very dynamic challenge, and technologists tend to just want everything to happen automatically, and they get quite frustrated when I need a person to do that. And when I found myself often saying, look, until you figure out a way to technologically change emotions, we've got to have a very broad and very dynamic platform, right?
Dave, I agree with both what you and Sue said. I think I'll steal something from Todd Duncan. High tech, high touch. I just love that concept. We stray away from innovation around certain areas that we believe are high human interaction, trust building activities. Something pretty simple that will probably resonate with most is where a product may go, where a customer may go and select a product and a price. We believe that that's a really key component of the advisor's experience. I mean, Finance America has 1,000 different products. To put that on a screen and try to surface the one that meets their financial goals, and where they want to be in 5-10 years, we just think that is such a tremendous opportunity for us to build that trust in a very short time frame. But those monotonous tasks, verification services, bothering your customer with getting all sorts of paper documentation, that's where we think the opportunity is to automate as much of that and take that burden away from the customer.
Totally agree. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe to the Mortgage Innovators YouTube channel or wherever you podcast. Until next time.